and then to the main event. So Betty, thank you very much for coming to our club tonight to talk about your life and your life as the board president of Rainbow Chamber Silicon Valley. I love that you called your career path or career nonlinear. You dabbled in a lot of things, so that's kind of interesting. I think it's really great that you tried different things, put your skills to use in different ways, and most recently worked with Wolfe Video, which is a distributor of LGBTQ plus films. When you retired from Wolfe Video, you began the life of a full-time volunteer, getting involved with the Silicon Valley Rainbow Chamber, and then taking over as board president in 2020. You also manage a film festival for the National Women's Music Festival in July in Madison, Wisconsin, and I'm sure that's a blast. I love your interests, walking your dogs, playing ukulele, creating along with friends your annual Halloween driveway theater production, which we all must go see. Happily married to the amazing Eileen, whose wonderful, even temperament keeps her grounded and who is always fun to be with. And I'm really glad that Eileen has also joined us tonight. So with that, I will stop my slides and turn it over to Betty to amaze and inspire us.
Thank you very much. It's really a pleasure to be here, and I think I'm going to get a little adjustment here. Oh, she's turning on my video. Anyway, it's great to see all you guys. I think I met most of you, not everybody, before. So I was going to say, I'm here tonight to talk to you about the pros and cons of getting your shoulder replaced. No, that's not really true, but that is why I have a sling on. And why Eileen is having to drive me everywhere. And actually, I do highly recommend it, because even though you go through some pain, you know the pain you're going through is going to go away. Whereas before, the pain I was having was never going to go away unless I did something drastic. So that's kind of that story, why I'm limping around with a cast, with a sling on. I have just quickly, I've been the president of the board of the Rainbow Chamber for several years, and ironically started the month before the COVID shutdown. So it was a weird start, and I had been on the board some before that. I'll go into that. Actually, it is kind of interesting, because the way I got started being with the chamber is that I worked, like I said, for many years for Wolfe Video, distributor of gay and lesbian feature films and docs. And one year, Kathy came into me and said, oh, there's this, Kathy Wolfe, the owner, came into me and said, oh, Betty, there's this guy who's calling me about our Rainbow Chamber membership, which she had a membership. I didn't even know it. She had never mentioned it. I don't think she participated very much, but she said, this guy named Wort Clayton is calling about renewing the membership. Can you just handle it? I got to go out of town, whatever. I was like, Wort Clayton, I know him, because I had known Wort years before when I used to sell commercial printing. He had a print shop. I don't remember exactly how I knew him, but you know, if you're in the print world, you kind of meet all the other printers around. So anyway, I knew him, so I called him up. I hadn't seen him in years, and we started talking, and he said, well, Betty, you know, nobody at your organization takes advantage of their membership. You have this Wolfe Video membership, but nobody comes to anything. And I said, well, I'll start coming, because I thought it was a shame that Kathy wasn't taking advantage of it. And so I started coming. And then, of course, you guys know how Rourke is. He's like, Betty, would you like to do the electronic newsletter, of which I had zero. I have a lot of writing background, but I had zero experience putting together a electronic newsletter. And he goes, I'll train you. And who can say no to that? So I ended up starting doing that. And then after a couple of years, like I say, I used to go to the board meetings, although I was not on the board, because it was so hard to get information to put in the newsletter. It's really odd. I don't know if you guys ever have this problem, but I would say to people, I just found out you won an award. Why didn't you call me so I could put it in the newsletter? People just don't think. So I would go to the board meetings to find out what I could about what the chamber was actually doing to put in the newsletter. And then eventually they were like, you might as well join the board. So I did. And then like I said, I became president right before COVID. And let me tell you a little bit of background of the chamber before I go on to tell you a little bit more about that journey. We have a mission. It's to create a vibrant LGBTQ plus supportive business community through development, facilitation, promotion, and advocacy, which I'll explain as we go along. And it actually started in 1998 with kind of one of those networking groups where you have just one of each kind of business. I'm sorry?
Like a BNI kind of thing?
Yeah, they got together for breakfast once a week, and they started it because the people who started it felt really strongly that being gay and in business was horrible at the time in terms of being out in 1998. So in 98, they started this group. But then within a year, there was all these people who had similar, who wanted to be in it, and they're like, no, you can't be in it because we already have a realtor, or we already have a whatever. So the second group said, well, we're going to start a rainbow chamber. They decided to start a rainbow chamber, which is kind of interesting in itself, in that the national chamber is not, the national straight chamber, if you will, of different cities. I don't think they were really trying to model after it. They were just trying to convey the idea that it was a business organization, and by calling it Rainbow Chamber, that it was a gay business organization. And the guy who was the president, Michael Monaco, of the networking group, the other group came to him and said, why don't you be our president? And after some internal drama, he did become the president, and the networking group ended up being absorbed by the chamber, but it still existed separately, so that there was a group that did that, but they also belonged to the regular chamber. And then I guess some people weren't happy with any of it, so they left. But over the years, the chamber has grown. At first, they right away, Michael Monaco is, I don't know if you guys know him, he's a Mr. Dynamo, and he loves to do things and have parties and whatever. And he threw a lot of money into helping the chamber get going. And he would fundraise, host events at his house in Los Gatos, and invite the mayor and all these kinds of things, because he thought it was really important to kind of communicate who we were to the straight community somewhat. Although there were a lot of gay people that we had. I wasn't a member that early, but he was still having those events when I joined. And I can remember he would have these crazy silent auctions and really fun. He would bring in guitarists or whatever to entertain us at his parties. Really fun. And then so like I say, we started out with networking mixers. Then we started partnering with some other events, originally with, some other organizations, such as we've done mixers with the Campbell Chamber and the San Jose Chamber and the Santa Clara Chamber over the years. Some of them were more, like the Campbell Chamber is very open to us. And we've become friends with a lot of them, and we help out at their Oktoberfest and their Boogie on the Bayou thing every year. Some of the other chambers, I think, were a little bit stunned by us. I don't know why. And we didn't really end up doing much of them again, but some of them have their own internal problems, as I've come to realize. But anyway, another thing that, so the chamber was rolling along. And in the year, I've got to look this year up. Oh, well, there were some milestones Michael told me about when they actually had a website as early as 2002, which is interesting. And then they had a big reboot later, and we were on Facebook early, those kind of things. And then in 2013, a lot of things started to happen in the chamber world, if you will. One was we got involved with the Western Business Alliance. That's chambers that are on the western part of the country that started meeting. They used to meet by telephone monthly, and then they had a conference in Sacramento that I went to. That was fun. And then then there was also established a national chamber. The national chamber, I think trying to remember why, can't remember what their exact year was, but I think we were around before they were around. But the National Chamber was started by a guy named Justin Nelson, who I just love myself. He lives in the Washington area, and he decided to start a national chamber. And he has made connections with about 400 corporations. And he's kind of at an advantage in the sense of his location, because he could talk to politicians, he could talk to heads of corporations or whatever. And what he decided was to start a program using all their support. A certification program. So in other words, we became an affiliate. We pay to be an affiliate of the National Chamber. And part of that is it opens our members up to be part of the certification program. And the certification is something where they made agreements with all their 400 corporations that if people got certified and were in their national database, they would be considered when these national companies were looking for diverse vendors. And so that's been a kind of an interesting thing to get involved in. The business does have to be 51% LGBT owned. And since we have some businesses that don't qualify, we have some businesses that don't qualify, but then we have a number that do and that have gone through the process and get involved in that. And then another thing we started in 2016, we started something called Connect, which was like a mini business expo, which would be all where we'd have our businesses come and table at a location. It had been at San Jose Museum of Art, had been at the Tech Museum, and then it died during COVID for a year or two, a couple of years, and then we started it up again this year at the Holiday Inn, which all you guys are familiar with them. They're wonderful hosts to us, and it was really a good event. We also had an event called Celebrating Success and Business Wars. It was a luncheon. And I have to tell you, I'm not quite sure when we're going to start that again, but I think we will probably in 2024. 2020 was a big challenge for us. I thought we would lose all our members, that everybody would just drift away. But I had once I discovered Zoom existed, I thought, okay, we can have meetings on Zoom. And I had this like one goal, which was to not lose money that year, to be able to pay for all the usual stuff we have to pay for, and hopefully not lose members. And in 2020, it worked out amazingly. And we had a number of wacky Zoom meetings. I had my brother from the East Coast who was gay, and a lot of people know him. Because when he's out here, he would come to chamber events with me. We had I think it was a Christmas costume contest, and he judged it. That was funny. But then we would also discuss various topics. So it had always been something in my mind that the chamber should also offer trainings. And so I thought, okay, with Zoom, we're able to do this. And so we added that component to having various kinds of business trainings. The biggest year for that so far was in 2022, because the national kind of got on board. They gave us a smallish grant and hooked us up with a Google trainer. And they did a bunch of technical Zoom trainings for us on everything from just getting your small business onto Google Web, so that you came up on the web, on the right side of the web page when people were searching for your business, to other technical things, selling things online. And then some of the other topics we had that year was had to do with either women's history or, wait a minute, I'm forgetting one. There's one I specifically, creating inclusion. We had a really good talk on that one night. Making your small business more accessible, which Renee and I did, which was very interesting. So that was really helpful to kind of kick that off. But then my feeling this year was, in 2023, was that, we always go to Pride and table at things, and we have a bunch of different types of mixers. We had last month, which I couldn't go to because I had surgery, we had a mixer at the Holiday Inn and had Ken Yeager come and talk about his book and sell copies, and that was really, from what I've heard, that was really great. And we want to do things like that to support our small businesses. So We're still giving some trainings. They're being right now underwritten by PG&E, a couple of trainings a year, and then of course we can always set them up ourselves. And I was going to say, I felt people were getting tired of Zoom this year, so we did stop doing them on Zoom. But I may go back to that for certain topics. I haven't decided yet. We've talked about, but we haven't decided. That was, like I say, I think it was in the long run, it was good. We really didn't lose members. We have 135 businesses right now as members, which is up a little bit, which is good. But every year some people drift away. I'll call somebody for renewal and they'll say, "Oh, I moved to Texas." And I'm like, "You moved to Texas? Bad idea." But one of the things I think is important about having a chamber is that I think that we need to think of ourselves as, first of all, not only worthy and deserving of getting business from everyone, and also so we can support each other as gay businesses, but also if you look at us in the aggregate, we are really an economic powerhouse in the United States, probably all around the world, but the United States is what I'm familiar with. And I think we need to always think of ourselves that way, that, we aren't just the gay community. We are a separate, economic force to be reckoned with. And I was going to say that some of that, there's an organization that does a community marketing. I guess you guys probably have participated in that. And they give out a bunch of statistics on that. This was our last physical directory. We're working on another directory. This will be a little bit more electronic, but we'll have physical copies also. And one of the pages in it was some of their findings from a couple of years ago, which has now been, I could update. But, they talk about the power of this is the global LGBT community in 2022 as being $3 trillion. And I think that alone, we just have to, I think it helps us to think of ourselves as bigger. That if you start your business and you're kind of like floundering along, but if you're always remembering that you're bigger, that you're part of something bigger, and that, you have an impact on this community. Politicians should be looking at us with respect. Other business people should be looking at us with respect. And that's kind of where I'm coming from with it. And then also, like I say, I really am a big believer in the training aspect of it. And so even before COVID, we had tried a few things. And it's funny, one of the things that was difficult was to find a person to give the training, to find a place to have it, to find someplace where a good time. And so we had a few, and they weren't quite as successful as some people wanted. But now I kind of changed I was thrilled when we had them, but I think it's important. I don't mind if we don't have a giant group. We had, I think, 14 people at our training last week, which was on grant writing. Yeah, that's one of our programs right now, are these mini grants. But the thing is, we also, thanks to Renee, we taped it. Most of our trainings, unless we are asked not to, we tape them. We put them on our resource page. We monitor how many people visit them, and we usually we put it in the newsletter and say, "Hey, go look at it if you missed it." We usually get a pretty good uptake after we have a training. Within the first couple of weeks, we get a big spike in our views online. So I think it's important. I'm sure you guys are all volunteer too, right? You're all volunteers. Yeah. I think being all volunteer is an interesting challenge. On the one hand, you're not, like the National doesn't own us or tell us exactly what to do, although they offer us many things. But on the other hand, of course, you're always worrying about getting corporate sponsors, getting the members to pay up, that kind of thing. But I also think it's kind of a wonderful thing to do volunteer stuff, if you will. So I don't know. And Eileen and I have, just to go back to my own personal life, one of the things great about volunteering for us is it allows you to be creative in different ways. Like Eileen, they asked her to do the DeFrank newsletter years and years ago, and she's like, "I don't know anything about that." And she said that the director at the time, who was that?
It was Frank O'Reilly.
Frank O'Reilly said, "Eileen, just don't embarrass us." And believe it or not, do whatever you want, don't embarrass us. And for Eileen, this was like a freeing moment, so she got really involved in that. She also came up with the original idea for the map where you put your pin in, which I think they have one downstairs now, a new one. Yeah, that was her idea. And then like for me, when I first started with the center, I was in sales at the time, and I was at this extremely boring sales training. So my mind was just kind of drifting, and I thought, this is when we were on Stockton. I don't know if any of you guys saw the center when it was on Stockton. But when it was on Stockton, there was a little part of the parking lot that was chain linked in, like it was separated, but it was, for some reason, it had a chain link fence. And I'm sitting in this really boring training, and I thought, we could have dog obedience lessons in there. So I ended up proposing to the DeFrank Center that we start having classes. I had a background, one of my varied things that I've done in my life was I was a rec director and swim coach at the YMCA in Charlottesville, Virginia. So I thought, well, I know something about organizing classes. So, so I went to this woman who had a pet grooming shop, who's gay, I knew. And I said, I want to have classes, a dog obedience class at the center. And she said, I can teach it. I went to her to recommend a teacher, and she said, no, I can teach it. And she did. She taught it for a while. The beginner was always the most popular, but it was so hilarious. And yes, she gave out little awards. She had one of her co-workers come and judge them, how long they, and Eileen came running up to me one time. She took our dog CD, that was the time. And Eileen was totally opposed to this idea of giving awards until she got a second place ribbon for CD. And she comes running up. She goes, Betty, CD would have had first if she would have just kept her butt on the ground a little bit longer. So, I mean, I know I'm diverting off the chamber, but I think it's, like I say, I think volunteering, it allows you to indulge your various interests. And like I say, be creative. I mean, the center was like, they were up for anything at the time. So to have somebody come and say, and the type of classes we had back then were dog obedience, we had a theater class, we had opera history. I mean, we did all kinds of stuff at the time. I did that for a couple of years, but I am a little bit of a jump around. So eventually I started doing other things. And I do the National Women's Music Festival, Film Festival in Madison. And you might say, how on earth did you get involved with that? And that was when I was at Wolfe. They would call every year. Well, no, it started because they called one year and asked about a specific documentary that we had the rights to, a sports documentary, a women's sports documentary, and said, we'd really like to show it, but we need to get your permission. And Kathy said, yeah, if you'll trade us an ad or something. And they did. And then they started calling every year. And Kathy, of course, was like, Betty, can you handle this every year? You find a movie that we have the right set of rights that we can show them. So I was like, okay. And after a couple of years, after maybe 10 years of that, they said, we want to give Wolfe an award for all the help that Wolfe has given us. And so I said, well, Kath, we're going to take our vacation to Wisconsin. I'm picking up the award. I'm the one who's been doing it. And Kathy, who's usually busy in July anyway at film festivals, said, sure. So that was the beginning of us going. And then after I went once, Eileen said the fatal words. We were having a great time, got the award, and I said, God, we should come every year. And Eileen goes, now, Betty, we'd be much happier if we volunteered for the. So we go every year, and I eventually took over the film festival, and we volunteer. And Eileen works. She's the last couple of years helped work their silent auction. She gave a workshop on painting, house painting, interior house painting one year. So it's so I think of to go back to this, and then people say to me, how did you get it? I mean, why the chamber? Because I didn't have a small business, but I worked for almost everything I worked for was a small business in my lifetime. A small print shop, maybe 20 or 30 employees. Wolfe, which at its peak had about 20 employees. I had worked the YMCA was a couple of, a half a dozen core people, and then lots of volunteers or people who ran, you paid them to do a class. So my background is has been a lot of small businesses, and I really see how important they are. And also they're all small businesses are more community-like to me. I mean, of course, the YMCA, but there's sort of a community feel to it. Although ironically, one of the reasons I ended up getting involved in the chamber was because at Wolfe, I kind of lost touch with the local gay community because everything I did for Kathy was national. You know, I had vendors who did tech stuff for us. One was our website designer was in New York, and this other guy was in Louisiana, and this other guy was, the filmmakers were all over the place that I talked to. And I felt like he came at a good time for me because I felt like I'd gotten out of touch with the local community. I was driving out to New Almaden, which if you guys know where it is, it's a little bit out. So that, you spend your hours there and then come home. It's a kind of for me, half hour was a long commute. And so I had felt like I was getting out of touch with the local community. And plus I used to live right down the street from this location of the center. And I moved in with with Eileen and Campbell years ago. And I don't know, she's in the Rainbow Women's course. And we just kind of, I had drifted away from the local community. So the chamber has put me back in it, front and center. Some other things that the chamber does that people don't really know about is I am also a member of the Coalition of Chambers, which is all the straight chambers, Cupertino, Sunnyvale, Los Gatos, all this, and the Hispanic Chamber and us. We're called the troublemakers, because we're, no, you can't do that. And no, you can't take that position on that because we are much more liberal than they are. And at first, when I found out that our previous president had been doing this, I was like, I don't want to do this. But I knew the Campbell people, but it is good to get to know all these people. And in some cases, they have a lot more of our interests at mine than I realize.
Does the chamber's nonprofit status,
Have I what?
Does the chamber's nonprofit status keep the chamber from being able to take political positions?
Yes, we are a C6. The way we've in the past participated is like if they have a forum here, like they had a forum a few years ago where everybody who wanted to replace Ken Yeager spoke. And what we did was we paid for the live stream. We sponsored the live streaming. So we can get involved if there's more than one point of view represented. And we do have some members who are politicians, and I have no problem if they come to a meeting. If they can yak their head off, and if they arrange it in advance, they can stand up and say a few words. We haven't had a lot of that lately, but I think we will in the coming year. We'll try to get involved with another event. So
are all of your members for-profit businesses, or do you have?
No, we have a nonprofit. We have 10 or 12 nonprofits. Eileen's the Chorus is a member. The Rotary's a member. Yeah, so we do encourage getting the local nonprofits involved. It's a $100 a year membership, so it's not onerous. And part of what you get in that is everybody gets listings in this. Some of the county and city people, they also buy a separate ad, but you will at least be listed. And I think that's a valuable thing because a lot of times in a directory, what do people go to? They go right straight back to the, buyer's guide in the back. And maybe later they actually look at the display ads. I don't know, but and we do try to, we usually have maybe 25 to 30% of the Connect people this year were agencies and nonprofits or government. So yes, we try to have all portions, but the smallest, we have some really small business members, like and then we have people who are professionals and not necessarily own a business, like insurance agents, that kind of thing. And I think the largest member we probably have is one of our corporate sponsors. Not quite sure which one's the largest, but for a long time, we've been supported by PG&E and Kaiser, who's in an interesting position right now, and California Water. And then we also, I know it's an unusual fit, but this year, one of our members bumped themselves up to the CCRM fertility of all things. And they want to do an event next year where we invite, we'll have to go far beyond our membership, but they want to connect with young gay men who want to have children, who want to, be fathers or be sperm donors, but basically who want to be fathers and have a family. That's a very select group. And I said to them, why do you want to do this through the chamber as opposed to some other group? Because I said, we do skew older and a little bit, although that's another goal of mine, get younger. And they said, well, we feel like that it's a more, not respectable, but a more, I don't know what to call it, a more organizational way of doing it. I don't know exactly, but she said, we feel like saying we're a member of a chamber shows that we're serious. They looked at us as being kind of serious. Now, we are not only serious, but, as a serious entity, business-wise. I don't know, they might be interested in talking to you guys too. I don't really know, but I've always found it interesting that they got involved with us. And I don't know. And we will do a specific event for them next year because I think it will be interesting. And it's funny, when I was at Pride, did you guys see the booth with the two guys who were raising money so they could have a family? Yeah. And so I thought maybe the CCRM is on to something I'm not aware of. So I'm looking forward to that. What's my timeline? Do I have a specific timeline? I forgot to ever ask you.
Yeah, so another 5 minutes or so, Betty, and then we'll spend some time asking questions.
Oh yeah, you guys can ask me questions. Like I say, I have been fascinated to watch the gay community in the last 10 years. I mean, there's a lot of games in town now. I'm sure Silicon Valley Pride has grown tremendously, or does a lot more events than they used to, and then there's you guys, and on and on. But I think we all have our part to play in this moving forward of our community. And by the way, Cheryl, I was going to tell you that this probably interests you, that I got a note today from Justin Nelson, the president of the National Chamber. It wasn't just me, but it was he, and they're going to have a discussion on the 13th about, remotely with all of the chamber's affiliates about how to combat this backlash against DEI, which they see as a problem. And I mean, they're in the East Coast. Oh, diversity, equity, and inclusion, of which there have been some attacks on companies having even having this in their missions, or having this as part of their hiring or contracting. And so that's one thing we're going to be discussing. I think they're working on I'm sure they're working on a multi-pronged attack, or response, I should say, to deal with that, because that's very important to them. And to the National Chamber, that's a big focus, obviously, because they're trying to hook all our members up with larger companies. And I did want to say a little bit about that. I never know what they're going to come up with. I was stunned because during COVID, they had a special session for certified members that happened to also be lawyers, because it turned out there was a couple of corporations who wanted specifically to hire some gay lawyers during COVID. Why, I don't know. So you never know what the Nationals is going to come up with. I'm just saying, they're very creative. Okay, that's probably enough. It's probably too much, but if you have a question, I'd love to answer it. And if not, I will regale you with stories of my Southern upbringing, which are funny.
Southern what part?
Oh, although I was born on Long Island, New York, my parents are from Alabama.
Okay.
And so as soon as they could get out of Dodge, they wanted to be back in the South. And my mother got my father to get him transferred to Charlottesville, Virginia. And that's where I was raised, was in Charlottesville, which is a very interesting place. Because on the one hand, I'm sure you've read all the horrible, humiliating stories. But on the other hand, it's kind of a light blue dot. And the university is the main force in Charlottesville, Virginia. And other than that, it's small businesses. The main employer is the University of Virginia, the telephone company, and then it's tons of small businesses there. It's really a fascinating place in that respect. And I lived there till I was 28. So, and I go back, I have sisters and brothers there, but anyway. there you have it. That's what I was for. I don't know. I joke about it. Yeah.
Do you have any programs, we've talked about before, there being a safe space reach out? So especially any of the queer and allied businesses that are in the valley, in the area, if there's any concentrated effort right now to have a campaign of having something that in the window or something that recognized them as a safe haven.
Yes, I'm not in, I don't know exactly where this is at. The Office of LGBT Affairs is starting something like this and asked us if we were willing to be involved, which we were, but we were waiting. At this point, it's kind of in limbo. I think Pride's messed up their schedule because, Pride is always a lot more work than we all plan on. Thank you for reminding me about that, because it's funny, because in Charlottesville, Virginia, which is not the most progressive place, they have in every many stores downtown, especially after that incident with, I can't remember his name, that horrible incident a few years ago where those guys marched downtown and killed a woman and all this stuff and ran over with a car. They have signs in a lot of the windows saying this is a safe space. So I think it's certainly doable. Thank you for mentioning that, because that's something I got to call and say, where is that? What place is that at now? Now, safe space signs. I was going to comment that, like you guys, we don't have an official office space. I don't know if we ever will, but I think about it. I think more about trying to get a paid director, because I feel like I'd love it to be someone younger than me who like to go out and meet people all the time and talk to the people. Yeah. Although I could ask you guys in the room. One of the things that has been an interesting thing to me is I'm a firm believer, and if you really want to talk to somebody, particularly somebody who's going to give you money, you have to call them on the phone. You have to get them on the phone, if not in person, but at very least on the phone. And I do find there's a certain amount of resistance to this idea with some people. They're like, what do you? Yeah, they're like, no, you don't call people. I go, I am not texting PG&E saying, will you give me some money? I'm going to just pester him and relentless. And actually, I do find corporations in particular, they would rather talk to you. They do go through this thing now. A lot of them were, during COVID, they all figured out how to put their stuff online. So they developed these, you have to apply for things online. But I always call anyway. I mean, I fill it out, but man, I'm a big believer in that. And I know it's a little old fashioned, but I think it goes better. And then, because we don't have an office, it's a little trickier to meet face to face. If the people aren't coming to the meetings, and our corporate members rarely come to anything unless it's really big. Like if we have get the awards luncheon going again, they'll probably come to that, and then they come to connect, things like that. But I would like them more on a day-to-day basis.
What is the chamber currently doing to solicit new members? So you talked about wanting younger members.
Yeah. Actually, because I've had health problems, this has been a little bit on the back burner. Mostly at the moment, we've just directly talked to people who we know are younger, and I've talked about having them become members. I don't have an actual campaign going right now. I did have a discount thing going during the month of August. And I got a little bit of uptake on that, but no, I mostly, I don't have a good plan for that at the moment. I'd love suggestions from anybody. Although someone told me that this is the problem of every organization and will always be the problem. Like they said, Betty, you could get a whole group of young people in 5 years from now, they'll all be going, where are the young people? So there is a little bit of truth to that. But I always feel that, I mean, some of my board is younger. They're not super young, but like John and Jazz, they're not, they're at the, Jazz just bought her first home and that's all exciting. And, and John, I don't know how old John is. He's in his 30s. So we do have a few board members that are younger, but, and they have brought some members in for us, but my big challenge for this coming year is going to be expanding the board, getting some younger members involved with the board. I don't know why that's definitely a weakness of mine, is getting more board members, but I don't know why particularly. And I go, it's because I'm older. I don't know. I don't know. But because I'm really, I see my strengths in certain areas. Like I'm totally at ease talking to anybody. I don't, and these corporate people, I'm totally at ease. But to get people on the board, I've like done some wheedling and haven't really succeeded that way. I do have one person. Huh?
We lie to them.
Huh?
We lie to them. You lie to them.
Would you lie to them? She's totally, I did not lie to get.
She did. She goes, oh, you should come in and do my newsletter. And then before I know it, I'm on board.
Well, I can't do anything on the board, but I thought she wanted to be on the board. I think I was misled. I mean, not to blame it on Vicky, but Vicky had always said, Renee's really interested, but not if I'm on the board. And then Vicky left. And so then Renee showed up, and I thought that meant she wanted to be on the board.
Yeah, he's like my big sister.
Yeah, it would probably be bad, yeah. But anyway, yes, I do have someone coming, I believe will come on the board in January. We've already talked about it.
Regional guidelines, considering it's not a city chamber like San Jose or Campbell.
Yeah, it's kind of silly.
What's your reach? Is it
Okay.
like San Francisco?
No,
East Bay?
San Francisco has their own chamber.
Okay.
And most of our members are from Campbell, San Jose, Cupertino, Sunnyvale. I have a few, I believe it or not, I have one or two members that are from the Santa Cruz area. I don't think they have much over there in that.
So we could look at Santa Cruz, San Jose, Alameda.
No, I've never had, well, I had one member from Alameda for a year or two, but she ran an online business, so it kind of made sense. I've had some East Bay people, but mostly it's more the South Bay. San Jose and around San Jose, yeah, I would say.
I have one final question.
Sure.
I'd like to officially invite you and Eileen to join the Rainbow Rotary as well. We have very, very aligned missions, and we're not asking you to be on the board. We're asking you to be part of the community and for us to share information between our respective organizations.
That's something, hard copy.
Hard copy? Yeah, we can get your membership application.
Yeah, send it over to us. I mean,
That's a good idea.
it is a good idea. I will say that when Charlie, whatever his name was, first came to our chamber thing. Were you a member then when Charlie came?
Yeah.
I don't think you remember them.
We were pre.
No, what I mean, when he came?
Yeah.
Oh, because I was like, I actually thought at first, I didn't know much, he didn't really tell us much about the mission of Rotary, but what's really funny is that he said to the group, he's presenting this idea, and I was like, God, if people think having a chamber of commerce is an old-fashioned your father's idea, Rotary's worse. I thought it was a terrible idea at the time, to be honest. I thought, but we do
put the concept out there. It's rebranding and changing the paradigm.
Well, yeah, and we joke about not your father's chamber,
exactly.
that kind of thing. But it is interesting that you guys are part of a national, mostly straight organization. International. Yeah, that's fascinating because, like I say, the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber is a gay chamber. That's totally devoted to gay. I will say, there's a number of gay chambers in California, and they're all totally different and totally interesting to me. I know a lot of the people because I've gone to Renee's gone. We go to the national conference, which was in Vegas in 2021. And that was the first time I'd gone, but Renee had gone several times. Was it 2021? 22. Oh, yeah, that's right. I finally got COVID after going to Vegas. What you see in Vegas doesn't always stay in Vegas. We may have gotten it from Luis, after we got that. But anyway, and then it's going to be in Palm Springs this coming year, which I think will be fun. Although July, hot in Palm Springs. So the national conference, and then the WBA this year, the Western Business, that was in Albuquerque, and those kind of events to me are very inspiring. Just like I know for Renee, when you guys went to Mexico, what an inspiring thing to do, I thought.
Well, and with the WNBA possibly come
Yeah.
to Dennis.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great opportunity for the chamber and for the Rotary.
Yeah,
partner.
that's true. That's quite true.
Actually, you were looking for, team to partner with too.
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny because I was telling Renee, every year I get approached at various points by earthquakes, the sharks, etc. And I was like, God, maybe we should. They're so corporate, really. And yes, we've had events at the San Jose Giants. That's a little different. First of all, I think most of their staff's gay, but they're very good to us. We do an event. Yeah, we done it 3 years ago.
We're talking about the roller derby. That's fun.
But then I was reminded there's a roller derby team, and I told Renee maybe instead of being involved with these big corporation sharks, etc., maybe what we should do is support something like the roller derby team. I haven't talked to them. I don't know if they're looking for a fan club.
They always are.
Yeah, but I thought that would be more fun for us. It's all women. It's a great thing. So yeah. So I don't know. We'll work on that when they have their new season next year.
Yeah.
And and then I even thought there's lots of men in our club, and I thought there's probably some men's local gay teams doing stuff like volleyball or who knows.
What is the gay softball, co-ed gay softball?
Yeah, it's weird because you never hear anything about this stuff, but I thought it'd be fun to go to some of those events next year. So I'm always looking for, ideas.
Find some younger business owners.
Yeah, possibly. Did you have a question or are you just yawning?
What you might have said this and I missed it, but what is the commitment or time commitment of somebody on
Coming on the board, we have. Well, we have a monthly meeting, just like you guys do, and it depends on what you're doing on the board. Some people, we have a couple of board members who really are pretty much just are the face of the chamber events. Like they are the younger ones. They go chat everybody up. They used to be called ambassadors and wear this big sash, but the current younger members are not hot on the sash right now. So we haven't come up with a new symbol for them yet. The tiara might be good. Yeah. So that would involve, coming to an event, although they don't come to everything. Renee puts a lot of time in because she's the newsletter editor. So that ends up taking time. I put a lot of time in. One of the things I wanted to do was, and it's not like we have lots of new members every month. I thought, wouldn't it be great if part of the ambassadors thing was to contact new members when they become new members and, call them up and get to know them. And they're like, telephone them, Betty? I'm like, oh, come on, you guys. But I still think it would be valuable. If you're a new member, don't you appreciate getting a call saying thanks for joining? I mean, I call them all, but wouldn't you appreciate it with somebody closer to your age? Like I call them all.
I don't think age is a big deal. I really don't.
It is.
It's about connection.
It is about the connection.
It's not about who you're phone call, but age does play a factor in how you.
Yes.
The group of a generation, there's some, the current time and info, I'm not sure, but the things are like, it's not don't call me, it's like, it's either I'm enslaved that you're calling me or what's wrong.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have to say that when you lead with, I'm the president of the board and I'm welcoming you, that never gets bad reception. I don't care who it is.
Oh, it's fine.
Yeah. You're right. I understand what you're saying. I just feel like we need more of a greeting function.
We need to change our generic phone call to Rotary welcome.
Something. So one of the things I would love to see on the board is people who would devote themselves to getting to know the new members. Not that we have a ton of all the time, but and spend some time with them over a couple months and get to know them somewhat, because I think everybody has great ideas. Now I was going to say some of the other things that happen on the board. Of course, we have a treasurer, and we have one of the people who does a lot of stuff behind the scenes is Bard Williams. He has given trainings for us, but he is a professional trainer, and he also volunteers for the national in helping with the certification process. Not necessarily for our chamber. Sometimes they're a member of the Golden Gate Business Association getting certified, but he handles this region. So that is a big job, and he probably wouldn't give it up easily. He loves doing it. But, so it can vary what you spend. Poor Renee, I'm always calling her.
Yes.
There was a period of time when I was like, Renee, I'm calling you so you can get me off the ledge, particularly during COVID. I was like, but I don't know. Anyway, any more questions?
An opportunity for Rotary to host a social for the chamber, to introduce the chamber to who we are and what
Sure.
we do.
Sure, we could do that.
That could be a good social for us one.
Do you have any idea where you'd want to do something like that?
We could always do it here. We have a good relationship here.
Yeah, could be done here.
We could also do it at a place, a restaurant that we have.
Could do that. I was going to say, one of the things that I would someday want to do is there's a winery who the woman's constantly contacting me, and she wants to do a tasting at one of our events. But I'm like, I can't do it if it's here. Can't do it if it's Holiday Inn, because Holiday Inn, they have their own wine to sell.
Right.
So I'm searching around for a possible place to do a mixer, just a fun mixer, and let them come in and serve the wine. I'm sorry.
She likes one.
She likes wine. Yeah. I could do it at the Quilt Museum. I talked to, I tried to set something like this up with Local Color, but she was like, I don't know if we can do that on our premises. So I have, she's not really a member. I've just been trying to get her as a member because I think an arts organization is always of interest to me. Yeah, I don't know. We have a couple of members who are authors besides Ken Yeager.
I will be soon.
Oh, you're an author too? Great.
I'm going to be.
Oh, great.
I'm starting a children's series.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, Vicki Brown has written some kind of how-to book, of which I can't tell you because I don't have a copy of it. And there's another guy who's written.
She's in the process of writing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We know a children's book.
We know a children's book author also, but she's not gay. But anyway, are you taking the people online off?
No, there's nobody. I mean, if there's anybody online, you're gonna look at them right there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they all have their cameras off, so I can't see them.
Yeah,
So Ashley would be interested. No, I'm not. I'm just doing this because I'm really pissed at it.
Oh, Renee is upset. I hope it wasn't my bad electronic karma. I don't know.
Well, I can tell you, Betty, that I was so excited when Wolfe joined with Netflix, because that's when I discovered Wolfe existed.
That's great, because it's funny. Netflix is a very strange customer for Wolfe, in the fact that they will not. I don't know if you ever noticed this. You can't look by studio. Up by studio on Netflix, or you couldn't for a long time, and they also for a while wouldn't use your trailers because they just didn't want you to get your name. They literally
they
wanted to look like it's theirs even if it's not theirs. So they're kind of tricky to work with. And now I left Wolfe a while back, but I still know some of this is true.
Right.
I don't know, and also
grown into such a behemoth.
Yeah. Also, for those of you who have any interest, the National Women's Music Festival is an amazing event. It's 3 or 4 days, I forget, 4 days during July in Madison. And one thing I love about it is most of the people who started are Midwesterners. I love Midwesterners. Eileen's a Midwesterner. They're so calm all the time. I mean, it could be the biggest, most dramatic thing going on, and they're like,
tornadoes.
They're like, how can we deal with this? So I love the people who volunteer there, and I love getting to be friends with them.
Is that Michigan?
No, it's weird. It's actually 1 year. The Michigan Mish Fest started 1 year before, 1 year after the National Women's Music Festival. Here's the funny thing about the National Women's Music Festival. From the very beginning, they said, we don't want to sleep on the ground or in tents. They've never slept on the ground or in tents.
That's a baby.
They were at the University of Indiana in Bloomington for a number of years. They were at the Madison College in Madison for a number of years, the university there, using the dorms. And then they found this amazing, Marriott that was something else before, and that at one point in this particular Marriott Conference Center's development, the Madison Symphony needed a place to be for a year, and the Marriott was remodeling this hotel it had bought.
Actually in the suburb of, you know.
So they actually made the big auditorium there, which seats 500 or something, so that it had the right sound for a symphony orchestra. So then when they moved out, they said, this is yours now. There's all this baffling and stuff. So it's a good place to have a concert. And so the Women's Music Festival switched to that location about 12 years ago or 13 years ago. And literally at this point, we booked the entire hotel, which is 400 or 500 rooms, and we use the conference center the whole time. So it's a real lesbo experience, as you can imagine.
Like Olivia music.
And there's a lot of music. The only reason they have a film festival was just because somebody one year wanted to show the stuff. Oh yeah, they have all kinds of workshops. The daytime is workshops of all kinds. And then the evenings are these big concerts, one group after the other.
And small concerts.
And small, there are some small concerts as a day stage with some small concerts. And then I do the film festival in the daytime. Usually show one film on Thursday, Friday, and 2 on Saturday, and nothing on Sunday. And, you know, once I got involved with it, I just had a great time with that. And man, I've like twisted every arm I know to get films. And one of the great things that happened, not this year, but last year, was I had my eye on the film Shavella. Have you guys ever seen that? Shavella, very interesting film about.
Was that the violinist?
No, Shavella is this woman from Mexico who would not wear women's clothes, and who had this throaty, deep voice, and was a singer, and she was really popular in Mexico for a number of years. And then they made this great documentary. She kind of disappeared for a while because she became an alcoholic for a number of years. And then she came back on the scene. I can't think of the young guy's name. Pedro Almodovar kind of rediscovered her, and she ended up having a second career in her later life. Really interesting documentary about her called Shavella. So I took it and played it at the National Women's Festival the first day. Well, the comedian they had that year, that MC comedian, Sandra somebody, I can't remember her last name. She was so thrilled that I had this film that on the last day, she was also a singer and pianist. She performed some of Shavella's music on stage instead of just doing a comedy routine.
Wow.
She said, I'm so excited that you guys had Shavella. I'm going to perform some of Shavella's music. And it was great. People got so into it. It was fantastic. So anytime, I mean, if you guys ever want to go to that.
Are they still running the LGBT film festival here?
I have nothing to do with that. No.
But is it still being run?
Here at the center?
In San Jose?
Oh, I don't think there is anymore. I don't know.
The documentary that you're talking about, was it Shavella?
Yes, say your last name again?
Varga.
Varga, right.
He's an LGBTQ, beautiful.
And such an interesting.
From Cheddar. And she didn't change the gender at all.
Never.
Most of the men, they were singing about women, but she took those same songs and made it her version, didn't change the gender.
Yeah, and she
didn't actually come out as a lesbian. Yeah, and then
she was an amazing person, I thought.
she has been tied to like
The movie covers that. You've seen it probably.
I have not seen it.
Oh, I don't. It was on Amazon Prime for a while, but I don't know if it still is. But I was going to say if you get a copy of Wolfe, but she's not carrying it right now. I have a copy. Do I have a copy right now? I might have given my copy away because usually I buy copies for the film festivals, or they give them to me and then I give them away at the end of showing the film because it's kind of a thing to do. You know, everybody loves to get a gift, so I do it as a door prize. So I don't know if I have a copy right now, but I'll look. You'd probably love that film.
Oh, yeah.
So interesting.